Good evening to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our evening update on September 27th, 2025. We're going over Category 5 Hurricane Humberto, which is an incredible hurricane right now. And again, is strengthened to a Category 5 this afternoon. And we now officially have two Category 5 hurricanes for the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season. And I'm also going to go over the latest on Tropical Depression 9, which is doing quite a bit of interesting things this evening. I'm going to go over the latest on recon data, which is coming out from the system right now, and some interesting trends and new scenarios that we're going to have to watch for potentially TD9 and implications it might have along the southeast coast. And I'm going to show you that with the hurricane models in just a little bit. But I do want to start off by talking about Hurricane Humberto because it is quite an incredible storm this afternoon. And just take a look at this storm. And it has degraded on satellite a little bit in the most recent frames, but especially look at how it was earlier today. Such a well-rounded, uniform CDO. And a very, very well circular eye that's almost a perfect circle. And you really don't get an appearance very often in the Atlantic with a storm like this. Now, as of the 5 p.m. advisory from the National Hurricane Center, they do have an intensity. They've upgraded it to a Category 5 hurricane, something that I was kind of doubting, honestly, that the National Hurricane Center would actually do, but they went ahead and did it. But it is 160 miles per hour, minimum central pressure of 925 millibars, located at 22.9 north and 61.1 west, moving west-northwest at 10 miles per hour. But judging by the satellite imagery here, especially if you look at these earlier frames where it had a nearly perfectly circular CDO, I wouldn't be shocked if the real peak intensity in Humberto was likely stronger than 160 miles per hour. Even wouldn't shock me if this was above 175 miles per hour at peak. But obviously, this is going to begin to weaken now. And really quickly, just to go over its track, it's going to weaken probably a little bit throughout the weekend, and then eventually, but it will remain a major hurricane, and it is likely going to remain a major hurricane for quite a while. The National Hurricane Center forecasts that it's going to do so up until Tuesday. So you can just imagine the amount of ace points that this storm is going to rack up. Probably when all is said and done, this is going to rack up at least 30 or so ace points before this then turns on off to the north and northeast. And then it will weaken to a hurricane, and then by the end of the week will be a post-tropical system. And Bermuda is still in the cone of uncertainty right now, but just barely in it. And while it's not very likely that this will make a direct landfall on Bermuda, again, I still say watch for potential impacts and maybe even some tropical storm watches and warnings that'll maybe go in effect in about a few days or so as Humberto makes a close pass to Bermuda, and gusty winds, heavy rain, all of that kind of stuff will still maybe happen. Obviously won't be, the worst of the storm, the hurricane force winds, but again, heavy rain and gusty winds more than enough to cause a nuisance. So those in Bermuda, I would still watch out here with Humberto. But obviously, the one system that we are all watching right now, because it is especially going to be more than likely impactful in some form to the southeast coast. It's kind of uncertain now, though, just exactly how it will be impactful, because it seems like the track just keeps changing, and there keeps on, a lot of shifts are just constantly happening with the models right now. But here's the latest information on Tropical Depression 9. Maximum sustained winds at 35 miles per hour. Minimum central pressure, at least as of the latest recon, they found it at 1,005 millibars. And I want to show you the satellite imagery right now. Certainly not the most organized system you've ever seen. but it is a tropical depression nonetheless. It's definitely bringing lots of heavy rainfall to the Bahamas, as well as especially lots of heavy rainfall to portions of Cuba. I think I reviewed and I told you guys yesterday, especially portions here in southern Cuba, as much as a foot, if not more, of total rainfall. And you can see the very, very high convective bursts that we have over southern Cuba right now, and they're likely getting lots and lots of torrential rainfall. And that is definitely a huge hazard. Rainfall is the number one killer when it comes to tropical cyclones. But overall, TD9 not very organized right now, but I can assure you that will change, and it's probably going to get more organized tomorrow. Probably going to see some more convective bursts fire here around the center, and this will probably continue to consolidate. And by tomorrow morning, this probably will be Tropical Storm Imelda, the next named storm in the Atlantic here. But I do want to show you something very interesting that has happened in the latest recon pass. And this is the recon that is occurring right now in Tropical Depression 9 as we speak. And for one thing, you could obviously see that they did find a minimum central pressure of 1,005 millibars. So, translates well with the latest National Hurricane Center intensity at 1,005. But notice something else here is that as Recon was investigating TD9 here, the center ended up shifting pretty decently to the west here. And that will definitely have a lot of implications on the track because we're talking about this potentially slowing down as this approaches the southeast coast. And I just want to show you the latest National Hurricane Center forecasts. They still show the scenario today, and most of the models today still show the scenario in which, TD9 more than likely stays off the southeast coast and then eventually slows down. But then as it begins to feel the weakness here to the east, thanks to Humberto, as the week goes on next week, this will eventually nudge its way slowly to the east and away from the east coast, avoiding a direct landfall. But the reason why I am very interested in these nudges to the west is because of implications that this will have on the track, in which this might potentially not only be closer to the coast in terms of where it tracks, but the rainfall threat, especially right along the coastline, will be very, very high. And even the potential for gusty winds and tropical storm force winds will also increase too. And it definitely is reflective a little bit right now with tropical storm watches in effect for portions of the central and northern Florida coasts issued today. And then, of course, we also have a bunch of tropical storm warnings in effect for most of the Bahamas right now, as this will be moving directly over the Bahamas as a tropical storm, again, likely definitely to occur by tomorrow morning. Wouldn't shock me in the least. But it's really going to be interesting to monitor the track here because if these western nudges in the track have any sort of impact, the more that this track shifts further to the west, the more likely that even if this doesn't make landfall, we could still very much see gusty winds, tropical storm force winds even, and especially, once again, heavy rainfall, and likely very, very heavy rainfall that'll result in a huge flash flooding situation right along the southeast coast. And that'll all happen even if this does not make landfall. And I kind of bring it up that, even if this doesn't make landfall, this might happen because there are still impacts nonetheless. And just goes to what I've been really trying to prove and say for the longest time, that you don't have to have a direct landfall to have some impacts. And we even saw that a little bit with Hurricane Aaron a few weeks ago, or I should more or less say last month, where it still stayed off the coast of the Carolinas and we did not see a direct landfall, but we still saw storm surge and beach erosion occur for the Outer Banks of North Carolina. But I do want to show you, especially with the more westerly shifts potential impacts that we might see we might see to the Carolinas. And I want to show you that here with specifically the HAFS models. I'm going to show you the two HAFS models, HAFS A and HAF B. First, let's go over HAFS A though. And you see here on the 18Z model run, notice the strengthens, but notice how very close to the coast it gets. And this happens around Monday and Tuesday. Definitely much further to the west here than what the official National Hurricane Center forecast shows. The official National Hurricane Center forecast is right here, and I would assume that the HAFS track is probably much more likely over here. So that is definitely a full 50 to even 100 miles further west. It's like getting very close to the edge of the cone of uncertainty here. And that's going to have a huge implication and change to the kind of impacts that we'll feel along the coast here, because especially if you look at the HAFS A model here, this is the reflectivity of what might potentially be with TD9 here, and indicating what the potential rainfall, rain bands might look like. And notice all of the most aggressive rain bands that might occur here with TD9, more than likely at this point Imelda, are all right along the coastline. And that pretty much continues for at least a day or so here, before eventually, the HAFS model does latch on to what all the other models show, and that this eventually ends up getting dragged out to sea. And then, this also gets enveloped in a bunch of sheer and dry air, and that ends up killing it as this goes out to sea. But again, I want to shift your attention, especially here around Tuesday and Wednesday. Notice that all of these heaviest rain bands here associated with TD9 are right along the coast. And in these rain bands are more than likely tropical storm force winds. And if this is a hurricane by this point, let's actually see what the intensity is by here. 63 knots. So literally knocking the door on hurricane intensity. Well, this run here shows 88 knots. So, I wouldn't necessarily take this wind speed thing at face value exactly. It can kind of be a little bit wonky sometimes, but what I'm trying to show you is this will be closer to the coast, and the rainfall bands, the heaviest of them will be right along the coast, likely bringing tropical storm force winds, and very, very heavy rainfall, which will probably result in flash flooding and all kinds of other flooding here. And we'll even probably get some storm surge as well. And this is all going to happen even though on the HAFS run, at least on the HAFS A, and I'll even show you here on the HAFS B, this never actually makes landfall along the southeast coast. And then once again, you can see here, and it seems like to me that on the HAFS B, this doesn't approach as closely as the HAFS A model does, but you can still see here quite the heavy rain bands make their way to the coastline, and with that will probably be flash flooding and gusty winds, so that's why I say that these western nudges are very, very interesting, because the more that the track may potentially shift west, the more that will more than likely see the heavier and more intense rain bands make their way to the coastline. And we've seen situations like this before, especially if you remember Hurricane Matthew and even Hurricane Dorian. Both of those storms grazed the southeast coastline. Dorian ended up making landfall, I believe, right along the Outer Banks of North Carolina, but Matthew never made landfall along the southeast coast, but it grazed the coastline with the inner rain bands hitting and absolutely pummeling the coast with hurricane force winds and massive flooding. And again, Matthew never made landfall. Hurricane Matthew never made landfall at all in its entire time that it impacted the coastline. So this is very much a scenario that we're going to have to watch. And again, I've been saying these scenarios are going to constantly change. The track is constantly going to shift. And those along the southeast coast are going to have to watch TD9 here no matter what. Even if this will not make landfall, you're still going to have to watch for potential impacts, which may be pretty significant, even if this doesn't make landfall. And we're definitely going to be going over more data and more of these hurricane model runs, and I'm also going to be going over the global model runs as they come out and they update tomorrow. And I'm pretty sure that we'll probably see some more shifts in the track tomorrow. I can almost assure you that, especially if we are seeing some western nudges with TD9 here, as I just showed you with Recon. So lots of very interesting things are happening, and I hope that if you have not done so yet, that you subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment any thoughts or questions you have below, and make sure to once again turn on the notification bell so you can get videos the moment I upload them. And I'm also posting on Twitter too, a lot. So follow me on Twitter as well at Danilo Evangelista, just like I have my name here on YouTube. So make sure to stay tuned for updates there as well. And of course, throughout the rest of the weekend and heading into next week with TD9, going to be doing multiple video updates a day. So hope to see you all then. But until then, enjoy the rest of your evening. That's going to wrap it up for tonight. That's going to wrap it up for now on Humberto and TD9. I look forward to you to reporting the latest on both of these storms with whatever information we have tomorrow morning. See you then.